Do you know who this is? Because you probably should. Larry Ellison is the founder of data giant Oracle. And in 2025, he was worth $400 billion. Okay, it's a little smaller now, but he's still the third richest man on earth. Alongside his son, David Ellison, they own Paramount Skydance, and you've heard of them. And that comes with a massive media portfolio. I'll show it on screen. In 2025, Paramount made 3 separate offers to buy Warner Brothers, of course, another massive media corporation. Now, they rejected all 3 offers, but they did put themselves up for auction. Netflix joined the bidding war, and after some back and forth, it seemed like they had it in the bag. They reached an agreement, and the deal was reported as if it was final. But the Ellisons said no. They launched a hostile takeover, Netflix backed out, and Paramount Skydance won. They acquired Warner Brothers. Meaning that after regulatory approval, which is still happening right now, the Ellisons will now capture all of these new companies under their media empire. The main ones being, Warner Brothers, CNN, Adult Swim, Discovery Channel, TLC, the rest. I don't know these American channels. Now the plot thickens here because the Ellisons, they're quite interesting people. Larry is a very close friend and mega donor of Donald Trump. So it makes sense that when he oversaw the transfer of TikTok from China to the US, well, Larry's company Oracle, they won heavily, of course. So while the stake is only 15%, it puts them in a unique position for control and influence over the algorithm. Now, being ethnically Jewish, Larry Ellison has donated $26 million to the IDF. He was to convince this guy, Arnon Milcom, to drop his Israeli top lawyer so that he could be used by Netanyahu in a corruption case. And he even let the big Yahoo vacation on his private Hawaii island, which he owns. I mean, fair play, I wouldn't say no, so. I am not coming at this issue in some dumb communist way, like, oh, eat the rich, nor some obsession over Palestine and Zionism, no. I bring this up to address a more fundamental, dark reality. Algorithms create culture. Whoever controls the algorithms controls the culture. And the algorithms are controlled by a very small group of people with their own ideologies, their own interests, and their own goals. Now, that is worrying, and that is the basis that I'm looking at. And even then, this is just one of the dangers of algorithms. We have the Netflix CEO, Reed Hastings, describe how their biggest competitor is not Amazon, nor some other content provider, but sleep. Human sleep. And for the third danger, to get a little less conspiratorial, algorithms make bank. Global social media ad spending is projected to reach $320 billion in 2026. So bluntly speaking, you are molested by ads day in and day out. And I know it's ironic coming from me because I rely on them too, but damn, can we relax? So algorithms are more than just doom scrolling, am I right? No. They are modern tools of capital, power, and influence. The stuff you see on a Black Ops loading screen. In their eyes, we are the masses to be sold to be manipulated for their own political ends, or to be squeezed out of every last drop of attention. Now, the worst thing is, this is natural. Business is business, the market is free. We'd probably do the exact same thing in their position. So, yo, Larry, give me a ring. However, you as an individual can fight back against algorithms. You can reclaim your attention, your personal agency, and your critical thinking. You can define what you consume on your own terms, mindfully, without being pushed around by the feed to wherever it wants to take you. So coming up, we'll look at how to break your addiction to the algorithm, how to think for yourself, and how to use media to nourish rather than destroy. First, and we'll go into more detail on this later, but you'll need something constructive to do in the absence of algorithms. And this is where Skillshare, today's partner, comes in. They are the largest online learning community to learn any skills and hobbies, with classes that cover everything from animation to design to development and loads more. Now, recently I have been loving street photography, but it's awkward and it's difficult. So I've been working through a class by Troy Baird called Street Photography, an in-depth and complete guide. That is almost 9 hours of in-depth explanations from someone with years of experience, and you just don't find that anywhere else. In this particular class, I try to focus on the storytelling in an image, so hopefully it pays off and I'll get out there and practice. I love to have structure as I learn, and Skillshare is great for this because they give you an orderly list of videos to work through, as well as learning paths which include many different classes that build up to one big goal. To try Skillshare for yourself, you can click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. And the first 500 people to do so will get a 1-month free trial. So do enjoy, and thank you to Skillshare. First, what is an algorithm? Because we throw the word around all the time, but do you know what it actually means? Plus, there's a cool story behind it, so that's why. The earliest conception of the algorithm, and this is pretty crazy, it comes from the 9th century. from a Persian polymath called Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi. And he wrote on computation and arithmetic, and these early calculations could be performed on a board of sand. In the 12th century, translation carried Arabic science into Europe, and al-Khwarizmi's name was Latinized, and now came to represent the act of computation, algorithmus. And of course, this eventually morphed into algorithm. The modern sense of the term describes a process or set of rules to be followed in calculations or other problem-solving operations. But this is pure waffle without seeing how it works in practice, in the context of social media. You know, Netflix suggests shows you might like. YouTube recommends the 10 millionth video essay. And Instagram, that's a different gravy. You wake up at 7 a.m, here's a drone strike, here's a car crash, here's a factory accident. But no, that is the algorithm, that is what we're working with. Social media uses what we call recommendation algorithms. Now, you can only watch one thing at a time, and social media's job is to keep you on the app, making them ad revenue. So they need to dig through the masses of content out there and find the videos and tweets and whatever that you like, that will keep you on the app scrolling. It's a zero-sum game. Now, this is generalized, but these are the 5 steps of how that tends to work. First, it catalogs all content and all user interaction data. So I'm talking, hundreds of millions of videos, billions of tweets, and all of the interactions with it. You get the idea. Second, the content goes through an automatic moderation filter. Now, some things are banned completely because, they might be illegal or just vile or against the TOS. Fair enough. Other things are considered problematic or offensive, but maybe still okay to post. They just might not be broadcast as much or given as much love by the algorithm. Now, what counts as offensive? That's another question and another problem, but that's for another day. It's just something to keep in mind. I guess that's what people mean by shadow banned, where it's allowed on the sites, but it's not really promoted because it's kind of in that gray zone. Thirdly, an ANN search is performed. And this is where the algorithm, out of that vast pool of content, will grab a rough sample, maybe about 100 items. And this is because it's way too long and expensive to rank everything, so they just take something that's more manageable. Maybe not perfect, sure, but something that is feasible and, cost effective. In the 4th step, each candidate item within that pool is ranked. And when we say ranked, we mean that a deep learning model will use your data and the content's data to answer essentially 2 very simple questions. How likely are you to click on this? And how likely are you to keep watching and engaging? That is the ultimate goal, and that is what it's trying to figure out. 5th and finally, content is re-ranked. Because algorithms, they're not perfect, and in the previous few steps, they were only focusing on individual items, one video, one tweet, etc. So this step focuses on the feed as a whole. Is it fresh? Is it diverse? Is it balanced? Does it make sense as the end user? Now, that's the gist of it, and I encourage you to read more because it's quite interesting. But the real question is, what makes something so practical and genuinely well built also quite sinister? Quite simply, addiction is the goal. In the past, you chose what you wanted to see and that was it. The album would end, you would catch up on all the new uploads, and you'd reach the bottom of your feed. And then hopefully you moved on to something else. Now, I'm quite young, and even I remember that era of the internet. But now algorithms operate in infinity. There is no end to it because that means more views, more ads, more revenue. I'm not even arguing it's junk content because it's not. A lot of it is genuinely well made and enriching, but it has to end somewhere. And even politicians now are treating it like the new tobacco, something that has to be regulated. And of course, who else to do that first but the EU? They are stressing the right to not be disturbed from notifications, from autoplay, from infinite scrolling. It's a thing. And I don't blame them because it's painful to feel like you're losing your mind. Literally, like you're less sharp than you were before. Or as the French would say, retarded. Je suis en retard, mentalement. So how can you fight back against addiction before it's too late? I won't prattle on this because I have other videos covering it in more detail, but in short, it involves a gradual replacement of, fast-paced, high-stimulation media with slower, more meaningful practices. Scrolling is a positive feedback loop. The more we do it, the more we rely on it, and the more it feels like torture to just do anything else. You can't always quit cold turkey either, because if you have nothing else going on in your life, then you leave a vacuum behind. And suddenly, there is nothing else to do. You would scroll the evening away. You need something wholesome and fruitful to redirect that time and energy towards. For example, there's books, there's documentaries, newspapers, articles, skills, your hobbies, your training in the gym or in sports. a business, a social life. Okay, let's not be unrealistic now, but I mean anything that has some depth and something constructive to it. And it's not this binary system as some people suggest. You don't choose between gooning on TikTok versus building the next JP Morgan for 20 hours a day. No, there is a wide and healthy middle ground, hopefully close to this side. It's not a choice between, pure degeneracy and then robotic hustle. So let's just get that straight. Now, to offer you some actionable steps, I want to do a quick fire of my favorite strategies to lower this scrolling and replace it with something meaningful. Number 1, keep your phone out of your bedroom, especially at night and in the morning. Number 2, keep it out of sight and out of reach while you work. Number 3, turn off as many notifications as you can and use a minimalist app. They're everywhere now. Number 4, set app timers or limits. I think all modern phones have that built in and I find it really helps me. It generally has reduced my screen time significantly. Number 5, just uninstall the problem apps. And I get some people rely on it, but if you can't justify a good reason to stay on them, it's just not worth it. Number 6, use browser extensions to get rid of shorts feeds and recommendations, like Social Focus, for example. 7, and most importantly of all, find and pursue your interests. Give them love, keep it balanced, keep it meaningful. Now that's easier said than done, so I'll link a few videos below. Number 8, embrace boredom. Get used to spending time with yourself simply doing nothing in silence. Not only is it peaceful and gives you the time to think to yourself, but it also breaks your reliance on constant stimulation. Now you made it this far and that puts you in a strong position, but it's only the beginning, because the most dangerous byproduct of our algorithm-driven world is the death of critical thinking. In 1835, French diplomat and political philosopher Alexis de Tocqueville published Democracy in America, an analysis of American society, revolution, and the spread of democracy. One of the ideas he discussed is the tyranny of the majority, which is where the newly enfranchised masses could enforce this soft despotism through the pressure to conform, and through this web of agreement between the press, the businesses, the courts, the police, and the people. One of the other fears was that the elected representatives would not be voted in for their wisdom and their virtue, but because they could appeal to the base desires and interests of the people. In many ways, Tocqueville's fear is magnified in the modern age, where we see a tyranny of the algorithm. The algorithm exists to present you the most relevant information, the stuff you'll click on, not necessarily the most useful or the most important. And that is quite literally cherry picking. And because by design it creates a positive feedback loop of showing you more of what you want to see, it narrows your exposure. Now let's say you are a Marxist for some reason. Now naturally, because you find it interesting and it's what you want to see, then your algorithm will begin to reflect that. You'll get Marxist memes, arguments, histories, debates, explainers, and so on. And before you know it, you end up on Marx Tube or Marx Gram or Marx Talk, whatever you want to call it. I'm picking on Marxism, but this is just an example. It applies to everything. Whatever community you're in will have its algorithmic bubble. And unlike forums or websites where you choose to enter them, you are pushed into these. And before you even know it, before you're aware of it, it becomes everything you see. Aside from narrowing down your scope, which isn't great in itself, this hurts critical thinking through confirmation bias. We tend to lean towards content that validates what we think and away from things that challenge our beliefs. Your worldview is a part of you. It's a piece of your identity, and it's something you might have held for years and something that has defined your life. And so when something attacks that, it feels like a violation, and you have the tendency to go on the defensive or to just scroll away and pretend you never saw it. This morphs into the echo chamber, where you're all jerking each other off with the same arguments and refutations and talking points. If you add the fact that anybody can post and anonymously, it becomes a total mess of opinions, no matter how stupid or malicious or poorly thought out they are. The internet is a retard convention. You can call me vulgar for saying that, but you cannot call me a liar. And let's remember, even on top of all that, who owns the media owns how we think. So Qatar, Russia, Israel, give me a call. But in all seriousness, you can just see how many layers and layers of danger there are, and this is worrying. So what can you do to stay sharp? Well, the ground rule will always be self-doubt. You must forever be skeptical of yourself. Not undecided, not to the point where you're a fence sitter on everything, but you must constantly seek to challenge the views you hold and to test yourself and to, internally criticize what you believe. You don't want to end up as this walking list of dogma and talking points, a product of the algorithm. You want to be someone who reaches conclusions by themselves, knowing that they could be flawed, that they are subject to change. Now, this is a whole big topic, and I'll link some videos below, but one way I enforce this idea is that if I believe something is substantive or insightful, and that's the reason I'm engaging with it, I will refuse to either watch or read it until I'm prepared to take notes on it, then and there. It sounds a bit weird, maybe even basic, but I promise you it's not. It goes deeper than that. To give you an example, I love watching debates on YouTube, both the slop kind and the more formal kind. I watch the slop kind for fun. And while I know it can make me think sometimes or teach me something new, that's not really the main focus because I'm not expecting much. But if I'm watching a formal debate or I'm listening to maybe a slop debate and I think, wait a minute, hang on, this is not just the same cultural talking points repeated for the billionth time. No, this is actually something I have to think about and process. In either of those cases, I will either take a notebook out and start making notes, or I will stop watching completely. And of course, this rule applies to all formats, books, videos, articles, everything. But why? What is so special about this little notebook? I don't even have one, I don't know why I'm holding it up. It simply gets you thinking. Because if you are engaging with something and just passively absorbing it in the background, you tend to miss things, or you take things for granted, or you just don't really think about what is being said in much detail. You are being lectured to while not getting a word in yourself, and you don't have that chance to filter the information through your critical thinking. Is it sound? Is it logical? Does this argument make sense? Am I missing something? That sort of thing. Taking notes forces you to grasp the ideas by translating them into your own words. Plus, that distance, that literal distance between you and the ideas, gives you the space to see them, to scrutinize them, to ask, does this make sense? Sometimes I watch something and I write down a perspective that I instinctively agree with. But then literally mid-sentence I think, hang on, something's not right here. Something's missing, or I'm not getting it, or I just don't agree. And that could only be revealed to me because I put it into ink. Sometimes things make sense in your brain, but as soon as you make them real and you can look at them independently, you're not as convinced. It sounds cheesy, but it's a magical feeling because that is critical thinking in real time. You can change your mind by yourself without someone else having to push you into it. The final problem we need to address is how algorithms take away your personal agency. You no longer get to choose what you see. And at this point, subscribing or following someone doesn't really matter that much because the algorithm knows better. It's going to give you whatever. Now you might argue, well, the algorithm works. It will give you more of what you like, so what's the big deal? Well, that is true, but it's missing something crucial. You don't always click on what is good for you. Instinctively, we are attracted to outrage, to drama, to consumerism, to anything that creates FOMO. And that means our feed often reflects our lowest base desires. If your decision making was purely rational and disciplined, then this wouldn't be much of an issue. But it's not. We're only human, and sometimes when we go to the supermarket, we don't always buy the healthiest choices. It's natural. This lack of personal agency also means culture is flattened. Individual discovery becomes rarer, trends are broadcast like wildfire, and it feels like people aren't really who they truly are, but this strange artificial algorithm created version of themselves. The way to take back control and hold on to your individuality is to become your own algorithm. This means that rather than rely on mindless data to control what you see, you have to curate the content for yourself, sort of like how it was back in the day. I'm currently purging my subscriber list and my follower list of anything that I don't think serves me anymore. And I also use social focus to block certain feeds and also diminish the importance of recommendations. What you then do is go directly to the creators and the artists and the writers, those you respect and admire, and those whose content that is genuinely insightful and nourishing and wholesome. Just like your physical health reflects the food you eat, your mind reflects your information diet, the stuff you consume. So if you actively seek out the beautiful, the good, and the true, then you will hopefully follow in that path. I especially recommend newsletters and Substack because you are choosing exactly what you want to see and going directly to the source with nothing in between. As always, the most obvious way to do this is to just get offline. Rely on real books, rely on real printed information. I'm reading more newspapers recently, and that means I'm less reliant on feeds, and it's great, honestly. And of course, there's the many oral poets wandering the streets where you can learn something from them, so that's how we used to do it, and it worked. Please let me know what you think in the comments and how you approach algorithms, because I know there's many cool solutions out there that will help others, will help me, so thank you. And if you want to watch more about critical thinking, I will link a video on screen. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.